Imagine a world where the very materials we rely on daily are choking our planet and threatening future generations. This is exactly the scenario unfolding as nations gather in Geneva to negotiate a landmark plastics treaty aimed at curbing plastic pollution. On Thursday, the final day of talks, civil society organizations pleaded with countries to stand firm and ensure that the agreement they reach is not just ambitious, but truly transformative. But here's where it gets controversial. Despite growing urgency, there's a widening divide between those pushing for bold action and others prioritizing industry interests. Will this be remembered as a turning point or another missed opportunity? With only hours left on the clock, representatives from 184 countries worked tirelessly behind closed doors to hash out the details of what could become a legally binding global pact. Environmental advocates voiced alarm over reports suggesting that some nations might settle for a weak deal, devoid of enforceable measures, that fails to address the full scope of the crisis. Such an outcome, they warned, would leave frontline communities, indigenous peoples, and other vulnerable groups bearing the brunt of escalating plastic pollution without meaningful relief. This round of negotiations marks the culmination of 5 intense rounds of discussions spanning 2.5 years, yet progress has been frustratingly slow, with no concrete resolution in sight. Earlier this week, talks hit a major roadblock when 80 countries rejected a draft proposal presented by Luis Valles Valdivieso, the chair of the event. Nations advocating for stricter controls on plastic production dismissed the document as inadequate, labeling it a lowest common denominator solution that lacked teeth. Specifically, critics pointed out that it failed to impose caps on production or tackle the hazardous chemicals embedded in plastic products. On the flip side, oil-producing nations, including Saudi Arabia and their allies within the so-called like-minded group, argued that the draft went too far. They favor a narrower focus on recycling initiatives and voluntary actions rather than mandatory restrictions. For these countries, the prospect of limiting plastic production represents a direct threat to their economic interests tied to fossil fuels. The tension underscores how deeply intertwined this issue is with geopolitics and corporate power dynamics. Graham Forbes, leading Greenpeace's delegation, captured the mood among environmentalists. We're all holding our breath right now. All day, everything has happened behind closed doors. Civil society, grassroots activists, indigenous leaders, all of us are watching anxiously, hoping governments will prioritize long-term health over short-term profits for petrochemical giants. A rushed compromise, he cautioned, risks setting back efforts to combat plastic pollution by decades. If we walk away with a watered-down treaty, Forbes added, it would be nothing short of catastrophic. Adding fuel to the fire, some non-governmental organizations, NGOs, have openly questioned whether the negotiation process itself is fundamentally flawed. Christina Dixon, who leads campaigns at the Environmental Investigation Agency, accused certain parties of exploiting the need for consensus, a requirement under UN rules, to block progress. The system is being weaponized against the majority, she explained. Time and again, we see most countries rallying around a vision for a robust treaty. But because of procedural hurdles, we end up catering to a small, powerful minority that refuses to budge. Dixon urged negotiators to ensure that the voices of the majority aren't drowned out in the final stretch. What happens tonight will shape the future of this treaty and possibly our planet. We need to see fairness prevail. Camila Zepeda, Mexico's Director General for Global Affairs and a key negotiator in the talks, offered a glimpse into the challenges facing ambitious nations. Speaking earlier on Thursday, she acknowledged the difficulty of striking a balance. If the next draft looks identical to the status quo, then we may need to reconsider our approach entirely. It's too early to say for sure, but we've already sacrificed so much. Bans, production limits, you name it. As countries seeking real change, we're walking a tightrope between achieving something tangible and refusing to accept token gestures. Before the latest round of talks began, a sobering report published in the Lancet painted a grim picture of the plastic crisis. Describing plastics as a grave, growing, and under-recognized danger, the study estimated that health-related damages linked to plastic pollution cost the world £1.1 trillion annually. Children and infants, it noted, are especially vulnerable due to exposure to toxic substances found in plastics. Despite the daunting obstacles, some delegates remain cautiously optimistic. Savendra Michael, Fiji's permanent secretary for the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, emphasized the importance of perseverance. There's still time, he said. There are innovative strategies used in other multilateral forums that could help break the deadlock. What matters most is recognizing the gravity of the situation. We're negotiating on the precipice of a planetary emergency. As the marathon session continues, one question looms large. Can humanity rise above competing interests to forge a solution that safeguards both people and the planet? Or will entrenched resistance doom us to a future marred by plastic waste? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe these negotiations can deliver real change? Or are we witnessing yet another example of politics triumphing over principle?